The sky over Charleston Oaks burned a deep Carolina blue, the kind of early summer afternoon that made the world feel soft around the edges, until it didn't. Cicadas shrieked in the trees like static electricity, and the pool water sparkled under the sun with almost cinematic clarity. But something about the air was off. It wasn't the heat, it was the hum beneath it. Camille Rivers, 52, exhaled slowly as she stepped through the black wrought iron gate of the community pool. Flip-flops tapping against hot concrete, tote bag swinging low from her shoulder. She wasn't here to command anything today. No uniform, no badge. Just a tired woman with a half-healed knee, a book she probably wouldn't finish, and a desperate craving for silence. She wore dark shades, a wide-brimmed straw hat, and a soft cotton tee that hung loose over black swim shorts. Nothing remarkable, nothing that said chief of police. And that was the point. Today was supposed to be for breathing again, for becoming invisible. Around her, life moved like a painting in motion, kids squealing near the diving board, the rhythmic swish of water, sunscreen-slick toddlers negotiating floaties with flustered moms. At the edge of the pool, a new face emerged. Broad-shouldered, pale skin burning red across the collarbone, polo shirt tucked too tight, jaw locked in a way that screamed tension. He walked like he was late for something, but all he carried was suspicion. Camille felt it before she heard it, the weight of someone already deciding who she was. He zeroed in, eyes narrowing, steps hard and deliberate. "Excuse me," he said, his voice wrapped in fake civility. "Do you live here?" The words weren't loud, but they cracked through the air like a slap. Camille turned slowly, her lips pressing together. The moment was small, contained, but it held the quiet pressure of a lit fuse. What he didn't know, what he couldn't see beneath the wide-brimmed hat and the stillness in her shoulders, was that he wasn't just talking to a neighbor by the pool. He was about to challenge the very woman who kept this town safe, and the fuse had just been lit. The heat pressed down like a weighted blanket as Camille Rivers eased herself onto a lounger near the shallow end, her movements careful, deliberate, protecting a knee that still ached from surgery. A faint breeze stirred the scent of chlorine and coconut sunscreen, blending with the distant thrum of traffic beyond the high brick walls of Charleston Oaks. This place, the private pool, the manicured hedges, the rows of sun-bleached lounge chairs, was supposed to be her sanctuary, a reward earned after 30 years of dodging bullets, politics, and burnout. Her phone, silenced and tucked deep in her tote, was a lifeline she refused to grab today. No calls from dispatch, no urgent texts from the mayor, no panicked updates about precinct funding. Not today. Camille leaned back, sunglasses low on her nose, letting the sun kiss the edge of her face. She took in the scene like a quiet observer. Retirees floating lazily on foam noodles. Two brothers launching cannonballs with reckless glee. A young woman in a sun hat coaxing her toddler to try the water. It was all so normal, so wonderfully uneventful. But under her stillness lay years of training. Her cop's instincts never fully shut down. She noticed everything. The lifeguard with one earbud in, the flickering pool lights someone should have fixed last week, the man in a crisp polo shirt standing at the gate too long before entering. Her eyes tracked him through her peripheral vision. Something about his walk, too rigid, too purposeful, made the hair on her arms raise slightly. She didn't move, just sipped her water, allowing the scene to keep unfolding. Camille had learned the value of silence, of watching before acting, and she saw him now, the stranger scanning the pool deck with narrowed eyes. His expression unreadable, but his purpose clear. He wasn't here to swim. She adjusted her hat subtly, concealing more of her face, not out of fear, but calculation. People always made assumptions when they couldn't place you, especially when you didn't look like what they expected power to be. That was fine. Let him wonder. Let him guess. Camille's breathing stayed slow, but her mind sharpened. She knew this scene, had lived it in lobbies, briefings, city council hearings. Different backdrop, same energy. The confrontation hadn't begun, but its shadow stretched long over the sunlit patio. The man stepped closer, unaware he was walking into a storm dressed like a sunny afternoon. Camille's fingers tightened slightly on her water bottle. She didn't know his name yet, But she already knew his type, and he didn't know, would never guess, what kind of woman was waiting for him behind those sunglasses in silence. Not just a neighbor, not just a black woman at the pool, but a commander, a force, the calm before the reckoning. "Excuse me," the man said again, sharper this time, his shadow cutting across Camille's legs like a blade of accusation. She didn't flinch, just tilted her head slightly and looked up, the edge of her sunglasses catching the sunlight. He stood above her, arms folded tight across his chest, polo shirt tucked with militant precision, HOA pamphlet peeking out of his back pocket like a badge of self-appointed authority. "Do you live here?" he asked, voice coated in faux politeness, the kind that masked suspicion under neighborly concern. Camille blinked once, twice, then gave the kind of nod that didn't beg for validation. Yes, but he didn't move, didn't ease up. His eyes flicked to her bag, her lack of visible key fob, her loose clothes, her skin. "I've never seen you around," he said, like it was proof of something. She let that hang in the air like humidity. "I've lived here 8 years, corner house with the blue shutters." He gave a dry chuckle, not amused, dismissive. "And I just moved in last month," he replied. "But I've been here every weekend and never once seen you." The implication landed with a quiet thud. You don't belong. Around them, the pool remained serene. Kids screamed with joy. Water splashed. A toddler shrieked at the sight of a dragonfly. No one noticed the pressure building in this small corner of paradise. Yet, Camille stayed seated, still the picture of calm, but inside a storm gathered. "Well, now you've seen me," she said, tone measured. But he stepped in, tightening the space, as if volume and proximity could replace facts. "You know, we've had people sneak in from the outside. Happens more than you'd think." Camille's hand rested on the arm of the chair, fingers curled slightly. "And what makes you think I'm one of them?" she asked, not rising. "Yet." "Just doing my part," he shrugged. "We have rules for a reason." His voice wasn't loud, but it pressed, probing. He wasn't trying to confirm anything. He was trying to corner her into proving something. "You have a fob on you?" he asked, eyes flicking again to her bag. "In my tote," she said. She didn't reach for it. "You want to check the HOA directory? Name's Camille Rivers." He paused, just for a breath, but it was long enough. Something flickered across his face. Doubt? Recognition? It vanished quickly. "Look," he said, now louder. "I'm not trying to cause trouble, but this pool is for residents." "And I told you I am one," she replied, firmer now. The moment tensed like a held breath. A teen lounging near the deep end glanced over. The mom with the toddler looked up. The ripple had started. "You can make this easy," he said, "or I can call the HOA board and let them sort it out." Camille finally leaned forward, placing both feet on the ground. "You're welcome to," she said, voice steady, "but be sure to tell them exactly what you said to me when you walked up." The silence between them thickened, stretching like tension, wire pulled taut. Mark Delancey shifted his weight, suddenly aware of the stillness pressing in around him. For the first time, he noticed that the lifeguard, previously half asleep under the umbrella, was sitting up straighter now, one earbud dangling. The mother with the toddler stood a little closer to her child, her gaze flickering over, and the teen by the diving board had stopped scrolling, her phone still in hand, thumb hovering. They weren't staring, not yet, but awareness was gathering, like a tide inching toward the shoreline. Camille hadn't moved. She didn't need to. Her stillness had a gravity of its own. "I just think it's odd," Mark said, tone slipping from authority into something more defensive. "A whole month, and I've never seen you once. You'd think neighbors would have crossed paths by now." Camille leaned back, adjusting her sunglasses with one finger. "Or maybe," she said evenly, "you've just been looking in the wrong direction." The words landed with quiet force. Mark's jaw twitched. He opened his mouth, closed it, took a breath. "Look, you can either show me your fob, or we can call security. Your choice." His voice had lost its earlier smugness, now replaced with something tighter. Forced control slipping. Camille didn't flinch. "Dennis," she said, calling him by name for the first time. "I told you I live here. I'm not going to perform for your comfort." His eyes narrowed. Why make this harder than it needs to be? Harder for who? She asked. The power was shifting, and Mark felt it in his spine. His posture, once confident and squared, had subtly shrunk. He was still standing over her, but somehow she was taller. "You don't have to be aggressive," he muttered. "Neither do you," she replied. The quiet edge of her voice made him blink. "I'm not being aggressive," he said quickly, then added, "I'm just concerned." "You're assuming," Camille said. "You made up your mind about me before I spoke a word." She didn't say it with bitterness. She said it like fact, and that made it hit harder. Mark looked around again. He saw it now. The lifeguard's stare, the mom's unease, the teen's stillness. The pool hadn't stopped moving, but the focus had. It wasn't on Camille, it was on him. He tried one last attempt at composure. "If you've got nothing to hide, why not just prove it?" "Because I don't owe proof to someone who already decided I don't belong," she said, gaze locked on his. And that's when it hit him. Not as a slap, but a slow burn creeping up the back of his neck. He wasn't the one in control anymore. He never had been. Mark stood frozen, shoulders tight, lips parted like a man teetering on the edge of something he couldn't quite name. The air around him had changed, thicker, sharper. The sun still beat down, but suddenly the heat wasn't from the weather. It radiated from eyes. Watching eyes. The teen by the diving board wasn't just holding her phone now. She was recording. The lifeguard had both earbuds out and was standing, hands on the rail, unsure whether to step in. The mom with the toddler had fully turned, her face stiff with tension. Even the old man dozing under the striped umbrella had sat up, squinting toward the growing disturbance. Camille rose, slowly, deliberately. Each movement carved out space around her like a quiet force of nature. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't posture. She didn't need to. Mark took a step back without realizing it, the shift in power so subtle and complete that it made him look smaller even though nothing about her had grown. Nothing but presence. "You walked up," Camille said, voice low but unshakable, "and decided I didn't belong. Not based on rules, not based on behavior. Just what you saw." Mark opened his mouth, closed it. His hand hovered near his waistband, like reaching for something. An apology? An excuse? But no words came. Camille reached into her tote bag, not quickly, not dramatically, just with the confidence of someone who no longer had time to indulge ignorance. From the shadows of her towel, water bottle, and paperback, she pulled out a leather badge case. She opened it. The sunlight hit the gold just right. Charleston County Police Department, Chief Camille Rivers. Gasps weren't loud, but they rippled. The mom muttered, "Oh my God." The lifeguard's brows lifted. The teen recording audibly whispered, "She's the chief?" Mark's face lost color. His mouth moved, but nothing came out. His body language betrayed him. Shoulders caved slightly inward, head dipping, arms no longer crossed. A man crumbling, not collapsing. "I didn't realize," he started. "No," Camille said, cutting him off. Her eyes locked onto his, steady as steel. "You assumed." The word landed like a punch. "I didn't mean—" "You did," she replied, not angry, not yelling, just finishing a truth he was too late to outrun. Mark turned slightly as if looking for an exit that didn't exist. The pool was no longer background, it was audience. Quiet, focused, watching a man who'd started the day in control now unravel in the shadow of his own prejudice. "Rules matter," he said, but it was barely a whisper. Camille nodded once. "So does respect." Mark swallowed, his throat tight. "You should have said something." She didn't blink. "I did. You just didn't listen." And there it was, the shift, not just in tone or posture, but in truth. Everyone could feel it. The story had flipped. The cop was never the outsider. The outsider was the man who thought his judgment was the only truth that mattered. And now he stood under the weight of that mistake. Mark didn't leave right away. He lingered, weight shifting from foot to foot, arms now awkwardly hanging at his sides. He looked like a man caught in the wreckage of his own certainty, trying to piece together what just shattered, but not knowing where to start. Camille had already sat back down, her badge returned to the tote. sunglasses lowered over her eyes like a curtain pulled on a stage that no longer needed actors. She didn't gloat, didn't smirk. That wasn't who she was. But the silence around her wasn't silence anymore. It was consequence. Florence Godwin, the 70-something matriarch of Charleston Oaks, rose from her lounge chair with the same deliberate authority Camille had displayed minutes earlier. She didn't shout. She didn't need to. "You all right, Camille?" she asked loud enough for every witness to hear. Camille gave a nod, calm as ever. "All good, Florence. Just a misunderstanding." But it wasn't just a misunderstanding, and Florence knew it. So did everyone else. Still, she played along, her presence at Camille's side not performative, but protective. Mark opened his mouth again, trying to reclaim his footing. "Look, I was trying to watch out for the community." Camille didn't look at him this time. "Maybe next time start by introducing yourself, not by issuing orders." His face flushed, more from shame now than defiance. "You're right," he muttered. "I handled that badly." "And?" Florence prompted, arms crossed. Mark's eyes flicked to her, then back to Camille. "I'm sorry," he said, louder this time. Like he understood the apology wasn't just for her, but for everyone watching. Camille gave a slight nod. Not acceptance, not yet, just acknowledgement. "Takes more than a sentence to fix damage," she said quietly, "but it's a start." The teen by the diving board finally stopped recording, her expression thoughtful. The lifeguard resumed his seat, earbuds dangling now instead of in his ears, as if waiting to hear how this would play out. Mark turned to go, but hesitated. "For what it's worth," he added, still not looking directly at her, "my daughter's mixed. And if someone ever talked to her like I just did to you," Camille raised her head slightly, "then teach her better. Show her what respect looks like by living it, not just preaching it." Mark nodded, and this time, when he walked away, there was no bravado in his steps, just the quiet shuffle of a man whose world had tilted and who, for the first time, realized he wasn't the center of it. Camille let the stillness settle again, this time as refuge instead of resistance. The sounds of summer slowly returned, the gentle splashes, the high-pitched giggles, the rustle of leaves overhead. But what had happened hadn't faded, not from the people watching, not from Camille. Inside, a part of her softened, not out of forgiveness, but because she recognized something rare, someone trying to change, even if clumsily. She didn't need to welcome him with open arms, but she could make space for growth, and for now that was enough. By Sunday morning, the pool had returned to its usual rhythm, laughter echoing off concrete, sun umbrellas tilting in lazy angles, the scent of sunscreen drifting in waves. But beneath the calm, something had shifted. The story of what happened had already swept through Charleston Oaks like a warm breeze carrying a whisper. It wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. The quiet retelling, neighbor to neighbor, porch to porch, inbox to inbox, held more weight than any viral clip ever could. At the community bulletin board, a new flyer was taped up. "Know your neighbors." Beneath the bold letters, a photo from last year's block party showed Camille in uniform, laughing with the mayor, hand resting on the shoulder of a local student. Someone had scrawled beneath it in pen, "To the man who told her to leave, maybe read the newsletter next time." Camille spotted it during her morning walk, lips curling into a small, amused smile. No need to respond. The neighborhood already had. Inside the Corner Roast Cafe, Jonah the barista gave her a grin and an extra espresso shot, sliding her usual order across the counter. "Trending on Nextdoor again," he said, eyes gleaming. "Word is, someone at the pool got a lesson they'll never forget." Camille didn't deny it, didn't lean in for applause. She just thanked him and walked out with her coffee in hand, her steps quiet but firm. Later that afternoon, she found an envelope slipped under her door. No return address. Inside, a handwritten note read, "My daughter saw what happened. She asked me why the lady stayed so calm when someone was so rude. I told her, because real power doesn't need to shout. Thank you for showing us that." Camille read the note twice, then folded it with care and tucked it into her desk drawer, right next to her badge. That note, more than any formal recognition, felt like closure. But it wasn't just her story anymore. At the next HOA meeting, nobody questioned Camille's seat at the table. People listened more closely, Voices interrupted less. And Mark? He showed up too. Quiet, respectful, with his daughter in tow. He didn't speak much, didn't need to. Sometimes presence is its own apology. Camille understood something that day, something she'd known in theory, but hadn't felt in such a raw way in years, that people don't always change in public, but public moments can plant seeds that grow in silence. Redemption isn't loud, it's persistent. The story spread, not through outrage, but reflection. It didn't need millions of views. It just needed one person to think twice before making an assumption, one teen to record instead of look away, one child to see an example of dignity when the world offered disrespect. And maybe that's the point. Power isn't about who shouts first. It's about who stands firm when someone tries to shrink you. It's about knowing who you are, even when someone else refuses to see it. Camille didn't win by proving anything. She won by refusing to play the game. That's the kind of power that echoes. If this story made you pause, made you feel something, made you think twice, then you're exactly where you need to be. Hit that like button and subscribe to X Daily Stories, your front row seat to stories that stir, stories that challenge, stories that remind us who we are and who we could be. New episodes drop weekly. Real stories, real change. Be part of the journey.